The IPO market is picking up in 2026, and there's plenty of slices of pie, but one slice is bigger and more impressive than the rest. SpaceX, the aerospace company and AI lab, now that it's merged with XAI, is set for a public launch later this year at a market cap of over $1.5 trillion. There are 22 banks involved, but only 2 jockeying for that top spot. It looked like Goldman Sachs had won earlier this week, but all was perhaps not as it seemed. Find out why on the Coffee Run. This week's top story is that through a group of top bankers, including investment banking co-head Kim Posnett, Goldman Sachs has been named lead left for the SpaceX IPO, i.e. Goldman Sachs has received top billing. Posnett, a former actress, has been described as incredibly charismatic. It's unsurprising to see her and Goldman Sachs high up, but one other name was heavily touted to lead the IPO, Michael Grimes of Morgan Stanley. Grimes chairs investment banking at Morgan Stanley. He's an unconventional figure, described by the Wall Street Journal as dorky, according to those close to him. He's known for resorting to off-kilter tactics to win over CEOs. For example, he previously spent years moonlighting as an Uber driver in anticipation of the rideshare firm's IPO. He also made his team wear rock band t-shirts when pitching to Pandora Music. He has a background in computer science and was described by Financial Times sources in 2019 as the kingpin banker of Silicon Valley. He left Morgan Stanley in 2025 for a brief stint working in the US government's Department of Commerce. When doing so, Grimes filed a public finance disclosure report which showed that in 2025 he was on a salary of over $10 million and had $56 million in deferred stock bonuses. It's not clear how much he's on now after returning to Morgan Stanley, but you can safely assume it's a lot. The bank obviously trusts him to get results. Posnett, by contrast, is one of the fastest rising stars at Goldman Sachs. She became a partner, the highest seniority rung at Goldman, aged roughly 38. In 2020, aged 42, she became the youngest ever person at the bank to co-head investment banking services. A year later, she became the youngest person ever to solo-head investment banking services. The main reason Grimes was expected to take the top spot is that he's famously liked by Elon Musk, SpaceX's CEO, having worked on Musk's acquisition of X, formerly known as Twitter. They even had brief stints in politics that overlapped while Elon was running Doge. Both men are thought to have caused a little friction in their political roles, and while Musk's fallout with the government is more famous, you can imagine there's some camaraderie there. It's also not entirely out of left field for Goldman to be there though, as the bank had a strong relationship with Musk in the past. It led Tesla's IPO way back in 2010, as well as a number of financing deals since then. In 2022 though, Musk supposedly fell out with the bank during his acquisition of Twitter, at which point Grimes swooped in. One source proposed to the FT that the reason Goldman won lead left was that Morgan Stanley showed up late to the party. They also said that the bank over-relied on Grimes and his relationship with Musk, despite the fact that Grimes had a smaller role than anticipated. Instead, managing directors Kate Klassen and Colin Stewart were thought to have been involved with SpaceX every day. Posnett, meanwhile, was bolstered by support from various senior figures at Goldman, including the boss. CEO David Solomon, who doesn't really use social media, was direct messaging Elon Musk on X to help his team's chances. There are multiple bankers other than Posnett who are now directly advising Elon Musk, according to the FT. They include head of ECM David Ludwig, senior advisor Susie Scher, and Dan Dees, the co-head of banking and markets, who's been tipped as one of the candidates to eventually replace David Solomon. Goldman's supposed victory would have given Goldman Sachs the lion's share of the fee for SpaceX's IPO. The New York Times suggests that a pool of more than $1 billion will be shared among Goldman, Morgan Stanley, and 20 other banks. It also posits the real benefit of winning this IPO is that if it goes well, Goldman Sachs will get first dibs on future deals made by SpaceX, including financing arrangements or acquisitions. As it turns out, however, Goldman's win may not be as significant as lead lefts usually are. In fact, sources suggested to the FT the listing is just in alphabetical order. Morgan Stanley may argue it even has a better deal than Goldman. SpaceX's filing says the bank has a stabilization mandate, meaning that it's tasked with supporting SpaceX's shares immediately after the IPO in what is a very volatile period. A source told the FT this could be more lucrative than the IPO itself. There's a lot of conflicting information out there as to who exactly won this IPO. The banks themselves certainly won't tell you, but this won't be the last battle over a major IPO this year. Both OpenAI and Anthropic are eyeing a public launch later this year. It's anyone's game as to who's going to lead these, but both banks are expected to be involved. The battle will begin again soon. Thank you for watching The Coffee Run. If you want daily updates on the biggest stories in banking and financial services, subscribe to Morning Coffee, our weekday newsletter. Every Friday, we pick the story that mattered most and dive deeper right here on The Coffee Run.